Okay. Hello, everyone. This is episode 56 of The Lost and Found Bin. I'm your co host, SMQ. Chick and I were speaking an hour ago about about the Bermuda Triangle of Vermont, of all things. And she hasn't shown up yet, so I know she's around. So maybe she got held up in traffic, or I don't know, something like that. But I'll go ahead and just kick off the show. And just I see there's already a few people in here. The usual suspects, and I appreciate everybody showing up. Thank you so much. It's been an interesting week. It's been I've learned a lot this week. Hopefully, everyone else. Yeah, Chick is always around Darkslayer. That is right. That's correct. She's always around. So we've had a lot of breakthroughs this week. Also, towards the end of the show, we're going to talk about Michelle's opinions about her show. Her daughter was tragically, she's passed away, and I'm going to send out this link now, and we'll do it. Remind you towards the end of the show, if you could and help out to donate anything you can to her PayPal. There were various costs. Her daughter was killed by a drunk driver, and it was out of state, so it makes things incredibly difficult when you have someone pass away that's out of state. There's all kinds of complications that happen. Okay, so what's going on this week? What isn't going on this week? So, it's almost by the moment things seems to be changing in terms of what I'm understanding, what's happening, what's going on. Obviously, we always go back to our patterning. We go back to the gateway process, obviously. But in terms of the Mandela effect world itself, we've had some very strange spikes in the Schumann resonance. I know Chick picked up on, we had two black bars that were back to back, and the way in which the spikes had happened, they seemed kind of strange. And it wasn't as if the opinion or sorry, I was reading Michelle's opinion. No problem, Michelle. It wasn't as if yeah, exactly, Buster. The double black bars and the behavior before and after what she tweeted out was very odd in terms of the Schumann resonance. Now, I will admit I didn't check the Twitter feed today, but the more interesting thing, though, is with those double bars, I know that the Schumann resonance folks, that their Twitter feed, they responded to Chick talking about it. So, if they're out there listening, or perhaps we could start corresponding with the Twitter feed, and maybe they could enlighten us a bit more on the black bars of whether or not this is something that's happening in the technology, meaning the servers and any of the instruments they're using, versus something that's actually happening in the environment. So I think that's probably going to be a kind of thing we all could help out with, particularly those folks that are on Twitter and are following the Schumann resonance, following them. Besides that, we have the whole let's see here. We have the whole UAP UFO thing going on. Um, and how I was trying to understand different videos that are coming out. And I put out an MSNBC video, I put out a Fox News video. I try to, it's like I said, it's in MSN. It's all mainstream anyway. It's a nonpartisan channel, so I don't mind putting out either, because they, like I said, they both have the same kind of trappings. They both have the same kind of filters. But the fact that they're trying to get out anomalies in our environment, and the fact that they've admitted that we have these kind of alloy metals that are alien. And if you go back to the video I put out yesterday, and like I said, you go to minute 6 and you go to Luis Elizondo, who is a former just DOD, deep state, high ranking official, and he talks about how they maneuver the crowd. Oh, wait, is that you, Chick?
Yeah, I'm here. I just didn't want to interrupt.
Oh,
Sorry.
hey, Chick, is that you?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Not here. If you're here, I'm not. I can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Yeah,
Hello?
I'm here.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
I'm here. Can you hear me? I'm having some technical problems.
No, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. But
Awesome. We got a lot of
yay!
people. Yeah, we got a lot of people. Hey, everybody, can you hear Chick okay? Because I can. Okay, good. All right, Tattoo Dude 418 says he can hear you. I think as long as we have let's see here. The Schumann is tied to solar activity. Okay, I thought yeah, that would make sense too because of the way in which the frequency from the Earth itself. Let's see here. All right. Thank you, Sharky Khan. Nah, I love it. All right, so we're good to go, Chick. So talk to me about. I didn't want to bring this up without you here because you were the one who had all this great information. You kind of blew my mind on Twitter. Literally, what was it like an hour ago? What's the deal? I had never even heard of this thing in Vermont. What's happening there?
So, recently and very recently, this information has come to my attention, like within the last couple of shifts here, of the Bennington Triangle in Vermont. And many of you probably have heard about this. You know, there's a difference between recollections, of course, but there's information and interviews and investigations of this going back at least 1992. It looks like further than that. It's called the Bennington Triangle, and it's in Vermont. And there's been a lot of disappearances tied to it. It's basically very, very akin to the Bermuda Triangle. And
That is so bizarre.
No, go ahead.
So bizarre.
There's been a lot of these
I,
going on.
Well, I'm reading it and I've never heard of this. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know where to begin. So, yeah, please, continue. I was just reading as you were talking. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break in there.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to just completely like try and collect my thoughts and do it justice, because it's something, like I said, that there's been a lot of like Bermuda triangles popping up around the place, and just it was one of the more bizarre ones is this one, because I would have heard of this one. Remember when we talked about like the vile vortexes and the Bermuda triangles that were around the world? This was not listed at the time. Like where whatever was going on wherever we were,
Mhm.
the Bennington Triangle had not come across us, and we hadn't come across it, and I couldn't find it. And I did extensive research at that point in time about the different triangles. But the Bennington Triangle, at least for me, is new, and I'm looking to see if I can see how many different disappearances there are tied to it. Let's see. There's all kinds of folklore and all kinds of strange things. Says 10 mysteries of the Bennington Triangle. Like, there's a lot to get into here. So if anybody does know about it, if you want to fill me in, I would be happy. It says that there is a large amount of people that have gone missing between 1920 and 1950. It's primarily known for the Battle of Bennington. The region is rich in historical events dating back to the 1700s. Bennington is fertile ground for ghostly events, folklore, and supernatural occurrences. The region is referred to as the Bennington Triangle due to the many odd and unexplained happenings within its surroundings, buildings, and nearby mountains. Native Americans consider Glastonbury Mountain to be cursed and used it strictly for burying their dead. Okay, so there's a lot of very, very strange things going on around this. There's tales of wild men and strange beasts in the wood, it says. There's all kinds of weird folklore attached to it. They believe the land to be cursed because all four winds met in that spot. That kind of sounds like a strange electromagnetic interference point or something, you know, like with the Bermuda Triangle and a lot of the other Bermuda Triangles, even though they're not obviously in Bermuda. They affect compasses, and they affect all kinds of different, not just readings, but also a lot of equipment one would use to navigate seems to go completely insane in these places. And it's also a hotspot for, as I see in the comments here, UFOs as well.
Well, and you know the thing about like the Bermuda Triangle and other places around the world. I don't know if you know about this, but I found this out just a couple years ago. And this is almost so far-fetched. I guess I'll just go ahead and try to look for a Google article on it. But what scientists have proven inside of mainstream science, and I read this on a mainstream science page, they were talking about areas like this, like the Bermuda Triangle, and now apparently like this triangle inside of Vermont. They have a connection to the sun.
Oh.
And what the sun will do is the sun will have a vortex. It's like this kind of invisible portal. And the sun, there'll be sun portal to Earth. Let me try that. And you'll have mainstream. Here's strange portal connects Earth to the sun. Here we go. Hidden portal from NASA. Hidden portals in Earth's magnetic field. Yeah, let's go to NASA.com. So what's happening inside of at least the Bermuda Triangle? I cannot speak to this Vermont yet, but what's happening here, and I'm on NASA.com. And again, I know a lot of people have trouble with mainstream places, but I'm going to use it against them. It says here a favorite theme of science fiction is, quote, the portal, an extraordinary opening in space or time that connects travelers to distant realms. A good portal is a shortcut, a guide, a door into the unknown if only they actually existed. It turns out they do, sort of, and a NASA-funded researcher at the University of Iowa has figured out how to find them. Quote, we call them X points or electron diffusion regions, explains plasma physicist Jack Scudder of the University of Iowa. Quote, they're places where the magnetic field of Earth connects to the magnetic field of the sun, creating an uninterrupted path leading from our planet to the sun's atmosphere 93 million miles away. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here. I'm so glad you brought this up. Yeah, so and if you go on and read these articles about areas like this, they actually talk about portals that are connecting. And since hidden portals here, I just NASA.gov, and I guess I'll put this in the description after the show's over. But I just pasted that in there. I don't see it. My screen's frozen. Can you hear me, Chick?
Yes, I can hear you, and I can see the link that you posted.
Awesome. Good, good. The other day, my screen froze up like it did just now, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody's hearing me. But anyway, yeah, there's portals, and one of the major portals is the Bermuda Triangle, and I know that there's one in, I think, whatever the sea that's in northern Japan. There's a triangle there as well, and there's one in the South Pacific as well. And what they're talking about is this portal connection from the sun to the earth. And we could go way sci-fi and say, yeah, these things are opening up and people are being sucked up in this vortex into the sun. And there's a lot of chatter that I'm getting now on Twitter where they're saying that the sun isn't a planet, the sun's actually a portal. I from two different sources on Twitter, I read that this week alone, talking about the sun and the moon being portals. And I thought it was so interesting on the Twitter feed when I was reading that, considering I had thought about the hidden portals from what I read years ago. And then you just brought this up. And one of those is to the Bermuda Triangle. I would bet you if we dug around, and I'm sure we're going to find it, Chick, because it always turns out that way when you and I get our minds on something, there will be a portal to this area, Chick. I'm about 95% sure. It's like I don't even bother looking anymore. I'm almost sure that the kind of portal connection from the sun to the earth that they have in the Bermuda Triangle, there'll be something else like this here.
I found my list that I had made of like all the ones that are mentioned now, which is a much longer list than when we first talked about this on the show. And just like quickly, just to show everybody, like not including the sun, but including just like the vile vortices and triangle areas that are considered here and now. And there might be more even than this. There's the Alaskan Triangle that we talked about before. There's
Yep.
the Nevada Triangle.
Hmm.
There's Ireland's Vanishing Triangle, where all kinds of people have gone missing, which is a newer one for me. There's the
Yeah.
US national parks, where people strangely go missing and people are not sure what the heck has happened.
Hmm.
There's the Algerian megaliths. Apparently, people go missing there too, and there's lots of problems with navigation equipment. There's the Indus Valley in Pakistan, the
Wow.
Hamakula volcano east of Hawaii, the Devil's Sea south of Japan, the South Atlantic anomaly, the Worden Basin, the Easter Island megaliths. Apparently, they have some strange qualities now too. East of Rio de Janeiro, there's another triangle. The Loyalty Islands, the North Pole, and the South Pole.
Holy cow. Wow. So I would bet more than half of those have a portal to the sun. And then are you ready to really be flipped out? You know how they have the hexagon that's on the North Pole of Saturn, right?
Yes.
So they're talking about the potential of there being a vortex from Saturn, and they always called that the black sun, and that was originally some legends talk about that being the first sun, and our second sun being literally that, the newer sun. And there's vortices, they think, and portals from parts of Earth that actually go to the northern parts of Saturn where that hexagram is at. And thus you have the cube and the cube worship. And the various, particularly the Abrahamic religions, are absolutely obsessed with cubes.
Yes, I saw like quite amount of people uncovering. This was a couple of years ago. Just how many references there are to cubes and Saturn, like in the media, in art, and like there's so much of it. It's
Hmm.
really really bizarre when you start to see it. Like all of the car logos, the not the top tier cars because those
Hmm.
have different symbology on them, but like a lot of like Nissan and those kind of things have a lot of Saturn symbology in it. And I even went into a dealership once, and it was a BMW Nissan dealership. Like it was
Hmm.
kind of like two of them together. And one person had won like Salesman of the Year or something, and the award had a huge Saturn on it. It was like
Hmm.
almost like an Oscar, except it was a planet Saturn. And I was like, have you never noticed the connection between like your dealership and between this symbology? And he was like, no, I just never thought about it before. I don't know. And I was like, this is strange. There's some real strange connection here with that. I had heard stories slightly different. I mean, I've heard people call it the black cube and the black cube, or sorry, and the black sun, but I've heard people talk about it as being the purple sun. That apparently there's these legends that it used to have some kind of purple quality of light, and then somehow it stopped being the sun. And well, I mean, we've seen the difference between the yellow and the white sun, so I suppose it's not that crazy to think things were different before then too.
Yeah, I totally believe that it could have changed colors just like our sun did. And I noticed also too, whenever I started to look more into the UAP UFO thing these last 3 or 4 weeks, a lot of people they're talking about the sun being white now. And they're talking about that as if it's something that's offending them. And it's almost as if you want to give them that breakthrough, but then again, you realize, that it's kind of like, I don't want to do that. So, but yeah, absolutely. And I was looking for while you were talking there. Oh, here we go. And Saturn's rings a portal to the planet's interior. Oh, that's from National Geographic. They're talking about the portals that Saturn has in National Geographic, but it's not portals to Earth. Oh, wait a minute. It says here provided any useful constraints on a planet other than Earth. Oh, darn it. I could have sworn that there were mainstream, and I'll dig for it. If it's out there, I'll find it. But they were talking about, in Saturn having it being the black sun or even the purple sun, or depending on what, version of reality you're in, depending on what shift we're at. They were also talking about a time when Saturn itself, obviously, it stands for Chronos, the count of time. If you know the history about Chronos, what Chronos means, there's this whole symbology around Saturn and the power of Saturn and what it means, and Saturn versus the sun and all of that. It's a whole It's a oh gosh, we could go on for 3 hours just on Saturn itself. But here we go. Saturn's hexaportal. Oh darn. See, there's tons of it out there. What I'm trying to do is find something that like National Geographic or PBS, something that no one can argue with. That's the only thing I'm going to put up anymore because Chick, as we've talked about, reality in the mainstream media has gotten too wacky. I mean, why would you not use it anymore?
I mean, it's something that's very difficult to, if somebody does not want to know about it, even though it's very difficult to say no, it's not happening. Like you talked about people feeling offended there a minute ago. You'd think it would be a slam dunk, but actually people don't want to hear about it, about
and
the
the
sun.
fact and the fact that you present them with mainstream media that or actual FOIA documents and all the thing we've done before, it makes people more upset. And I know what you're doing. I had someone commenting, and I didn't ban the guy, but he was actually calling me a thing and an it. He said this thing, and he had some problem. He goes, why don't you show your face? And I'm thinking to myself, I've shown my face quite a bit. There's like more than an hour interview of showing my face. I don't want it's just not my thing. And it's like somehow he had gotten me or something. Like, he had figured it out. I'm not showing my face, so therefore I'm like an it or something. And I'm just like, I don't get it. Whatever. So
It's people could do a very quick amount of research. They could just click on your channel and look through your scroll through your videos, and oh wait, there's somewhere you are just speaking into the camera, and that would
well,
solve the mystery. But some
I,
people don't do that, and they prefer to just be upset and say that you're from the machine world and that you're also 20 different people on YouTube or something.
Right, right. And the funny part that I love is that it's a terrible state to be in, that you're angry and lazy because, and not only that, my face is square and center on the Truth Frequency radio show I do every single Saturday, the Lizard Ritual. My face is right there. My face is absolutely out there for every single person who wants to do about 35 seconds of research. So it's like I didn't even answer anymore because I thought the guy, he was more of a kind of, he was a Christian, and he thought I was saying some things that were leading people astray, which that's fair, and that's fair criticism. And I started to try to explain my position to him, but once he said, you're a thing and you won't show your face, I was like, oh man, you won't even do research. I'm not arguing with you. I do hours and hours and you do, I do, Buster, the whole crew. Heck, people in the chat here who send us really cool things. We all do all of this research all week long, and we take hours and hours and hours of work. And you couldn't take 30 seconds to find out what I look like. Really?
I think it's easier to just get mad and
Yeah.
just be angry
Yeah.
and tell everyone else that definitely this is it. You cannot be wrong because you're angry enough that you must be right. And
I
that's
know.
just not an efficient way to run arguments, but it seems to be a way that people try to run arguments around here.
I don't know. It's so bizarre. But yeah, the portals from the sun, they're real. They connect to Earth. They do it all the time. Scientists, they actually played around in a lot of mainstream articles I read. They were trying to get an idea, a shuttle. If they could get a more stabilized portal, they wanted to do some kind of plasma shuttle to the sun and try to get information, to the, from the sun, extract information with this plasma. And I thought it was a great idea. And I stopped researching it because, to me, that was a Mandela effect. Portals from the sun hitting the earth was the Mandela effect. And then once I found that it was tied to the Bermuda Triangle, then I knew. But, by then I was only just getting into Crazy Town. Now it's like, we're on the city council of Crazy Town. So at this point it was, this almost seems, okay, there's another triangle. But this Vermont thing though, that seems to me like, I think that's an ME, I think. And if it's not an ME like the last shift, I would say it's probably a Mandela effect shift. At least I'd say at least in the last 3 or 4 months. What do you think?
Oh, it's been More recent than that for me that I first heard about it, but again, it's very difficult to say exactly when it came around, kind of like the Tartaria mud floods. It's
Mhm.
like some people say, "Oh, I've heard about that always," and then for other people, it was suddenly just the information was there.
Mhm.
So it's kind of along those lines for me, in that it's very recent for me. I'd never heard about it before. It's something that I had researched in the past that I can't imagine how I wouldn't have come across it if it was there. And it's just I think a trend, because we're just seeing more and more and more of these spots that, originally it was just a couple of places like the Bermuda Triangle, and that's why they were so notable, is because they were so rare, and now they're not rare at all.
And that's a good point you just made right there. They're not rare at all, and that's just, I wonder if that somehow correlates to the amount of particle smashers we have. Because I remember, and we've talked about this before, when there was only CERN, and that was it. It was the particle smasher, and now there's, I think, hundreds of them. They're all over their place. They're in Chicago. They're in Texas. They're in Arizona. There's tons of them in China and Asia and Europe, and I mean Europe other than CERN. And I wonder if, and I thought about this too. And I've brought this up. Are they using, the particle smashers? They've been space time, and it's from what the agent that the government contractor, the anonymous government contractor that I've talked to. He won't tell me about the technology, but he says it's a CERN is a front-facing technology for the public. And what's behind it, I don't know, but I know it's much bigger. And what it's actually doing is it's creating these kinds of portals where they can. What it sounds to me like they're looking to permanently click out. And that anybody who doesn't know, that's from the Gateway document. You can click out of this time space, and it sounds to me what they want to do is create a permanent place to click out permanently, so you can load, offload things, sort of off planet, but it's not really even off planet. You're off dimension, I suppose. I don't have much of a vocabulary for it, but I forgot the point I was making. Everything is so weird now. It's almost hard to keep your head straight. Sorry, I just went blank.
You were just saying that CERN being a front-facing technology, that really it's more for the public, and really they behind the scenes were working with more dimensional aspects.
Right, right. And the point was, just like there used to be a rare amount of Bermuda triangles, I wonder if one of the many side effects, the myriad of side effects of whatever it is with this technology they're doing with CERN, if these kinds of areas pop up, these thin veil areas. And then there's all kinds of strange side effects with each of these Bermuda triangles, the Vermont triangle, whatever it is. I'm wondering if that's part of that veil thinning. You've got the Skinwalker Ranch thing where people are, this guy, I forgot, I think his name is, I forgot who it was. Bigelow, Mr. Bigelow. He's the one who bought Skinwalker Ranch, and that was because he's into aerospace. Now, why would someone want to buy something that would be in the paranormal realm? Why would you want to buy something, if you're an aerospace person? Well, that has a lot to do with these portals opening and using that aerospace technology to pass between those portals. And one of the more interesting streams that I was thinking about was, what if they're talking about when you go to these different versions of reality, like we're shifting, what if they're looking at that like, the original colonial powers did 300 or 400 years ago, other countries or other continents, and what they're doing is they're colonizing dimensions, they're colonizing timelines, and they're forcefully taking over these particular timelines. And like the battle that's happening right now is a battle for this particular timeline, and that was partly because of what I was thinking about, and partly what this anonymous person was telling me about how things work. And it was just kind of putting all these things together. Obviously, it's absolute speculation on my part. But if you think about it, the aerospace, world, and the DoD world, and the CIA world, and all of those, they're so tightly intertwined. You can't help but think, why would you buy areas up or quarantine areas off where the veil is the thinnest, and you are trying to do what there? You know, it makes you wonder.
I had heard, and I hope I'm wording this correctly, but I had heard that there was this dimension of time space that they were trying to understand, and it kind of behaved more like quantum physics. Now, this is somebody that like, this is secondhand information, like somebody that worked in and knew very much about the Navy, because the Navy are the ones that deal with all of the strange, saucers and weird things like that, and they've been in charge of that for a long time. But he said that there was this particular dimension of time space where you could create, and it was kind of like what I mentioned there on the quantum level about like how particles can just pop into existence, except this was something where that effort could be directed, and they were like both kind of intrigued and kind of afraid of that kind of level of technology being available, because there seemed to be this kind of course they weren't using it to make anything good. Apparently they were using it to try and understand about how to something to do with aircraft, like aircraft wings or something, was something that they were trying to shake loose out of this dimension of time space. I don't know if the experiments with that ever went forward. I don't know the particulars of it, but I do know that they said that there was competition in that region, that there was some kind of other intelligence there that didn't particularly want that to be messed with by people from here. And again, not being somebody that knows about that kind of arena, that kind of thought arena, I never went any further with that. But it was something that I found intriguing, because I was like, yeah, sure, you could have a certain amount of particles like pop into being, and they do all the time, appear and disappear out of being. But I'd never heard before about how you could direct that effort to have something kind of entirely, I'm not even sure if manifest is the right word, but just entirely come into being or go out of being. And I'm not sure if they were clicking out when they did this. I presume they were. But it was a very strange idea, even.
Oh, well, it sounds to me what you're talking about is I did a video yesterday real quick. Luis Elizondo, he's the gentleman that I was talking about earlier, and he's running that To the Stars Academy. And he said this, and this kind of plays into what you're talking about things basically kind of tuning into our vibrational frequency, and then they appear, and then they tune out and they disappear. So the video I put out yesterday, I want to urge everybody to check out. It has a link to an MSNBC interview he did when they were admitting that we are in the process of not disclosure, but we're in the process they call confirmation of UAP technology, that it actually does exist. And how this ties to the Mandela effect is through the gateway process, which we're talking about, because he goes in the last 6 minutes, and I had this quote here. He goes, "We began to realize it's all a manifestation of potentially a single technology," because he was talking about multiple craft, and he was talking about multiple bits of alloy metal that are alien to this planet, and they were talking about the craft, and I was talking to my source about the craft not really actually coming here versus the craft tuning into here, kind of like what you're talking about. And then we started to get into this idea of, you could call it the God particle, you can call it whatever you want, but everything that you see that's working around you, that's moving, that's existing, that seems inanimate and not alive, it's all made of the same particle. It's all made of the same thing. So what ends up happening is the way in which all these particles that are around us, they're all around us, and all we are is expressions of one particular particle that's been repeated over and over again. And those expressions are very different. And then there's a set of those particles that create Chick, a set of the particles that create me, a set of the particles that create Buster. And then you have the aliens and their technology, or a microphone or a pair of shoes or whatever it may be. But these technologies are actually taking a subset of these particles, and they're vibrating their frequencies, and poof, here they are. That's how they're, there's like they're gone in a flash or whatever, is because that's what they're doing. And if you do that last 6 minutes and I listened to it about 30 times, and it took me that much to get that. But it's exactly what you're talking about. These things are like, if you vibrate them just right, they come right into existence. And there's various rumors out there that there was technology as early as the 1900s where they had vibrational technology that would there were people that were dying of terminal cancer, and they would turn on this vibration machine, and not vibration like you would feel it. This is beyond, I think the way in which it's like those Tesla coils I was talking about earlier on Twitter. They go up, they use this frequency that's beyond anything that we can understand with our senses in terms of sight or sound or feel. And there are frequencies way beyond the band of what a human being can feel and experience. But these are the frequencies that actually change matter and material. But also these are the frequencies that can make things come out in and out of being. So it's craziness. And then someone else brought up, and I forgot who it was, and I said I'd mention it. They were talking about the idea of light and using light. Like you could have a room on, and then with light, and then you have a flashlight, right? And then you turn the lights off in the room and the flashlight is still on, and you have a different perception of the room, but the room is still there. It's just that you have the flashlight. And I thought, in terms of technology, or even in terms of our perception of the things that are around us, that would be a very powerful thing if you would well, unfortunately, if you could weaponize it or something like that.
Well, hopefully not weaponize it, but yeah, that's probably what certain elements would want to do with it.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that's kind of the point that we're at right now, is that we're in a room with a flashlight. We're starting to see a lot of things, but I think when the light comes on completely, the whole picture is going to look different.
Oh, you know it. Oh, you totally know it. Oh, and by the way, everybody, I see we have over 90 people watching and there's only 36 thumbs up. Can we get some more thumbs up? So Dirk, hey, Dirk Myra, all right, that was me, SMQ. And okay, perfect. Can you re-explain again? Because the way you did it was really well. Can you do it one more time? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, and we'll move on while you do it, and I'll look for your comment, because the way you described it was really groundbreaking and interesting. So yeah, and Jeremy is saying, I agree with what you said before about clicking out. You aren't really going anywhere. Exactly. You're just focusing on a different frequency band. Exactly. That's exactly it. You're just refocusing your efforts, and poof, you're elsewhere. And that's exactly it. Totally.
Yep, and that's something that I heard mentioned the other day too. Was actually somebody that was talking about their meditations, and people being afraid of like meditating too much, and that their consciousness would kind of drift in some other direction, and that would falter their spiritual protection. But this guy was saying that your consciousness is kind of projected, like it's not just in one spot and that it can wander off to somewhere else. It's like when you're really kind of in touch with your consciousness, you'll realize it's not one thing that goes from one place to another. It's already like, I wanted to say in several places, but probably in several different places, and not just in physical places, almost like the doorway effect that we talked about before. Maybe the reason that you forget when you're going through the doorway is because you're already in the next room. And it's not that you ever go from one room to another, it's that you're already in every room. It's just that your particular viewpoint, your particular part of you that you think is you, that you've cordoned off so that you can experience this life as an individual, thinks that you're going from one place to another, but that consciousness is not actually ever kind of separated and boiled down into one thing. It's always a much larger perspective. It's almost always a much larger situation.
So that's like the superposition kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's very good. That's very cool. Yeah, and I'm very into that. I think that's I think there's something to that. I absolutely agree with that. And I think no matter what, it's already been done and you've already done it. So, oh, all right. So this is what Dirk was saying. If you have a room with the light on and you stand in there with the flashlight, the light isn't interfering with the light in the room. If you get the light to 1,000 flashlights, you can move all the lights without, and it's going to keep going. Let me find you. Where are you at? Here we go. Without interference. That's the ways dimensions work. Dimensions don't have boundaries. Oh, they all go through each other. So our consciousness is everywhere. Oh, I see what you're saying. It's like flashlights. Yep, yep. What a great perspective. Wow, we just did that right here. Do I'm gonna read that one more time for everybody, because let me make sure that I've got this right. If you have a room with the lights on, and you stand there with a flashlight, your flashlight isn't interfering with the light in the room. If you get the light of 1,000 flashlights, and move all the lights out, right? Um, Wait, it says, and you move all the lights out. I'm trying to catch up here. And you move all the lights out without interference. I see. That's the way dimensions work. I see. Yeah, that's great. And the thing about dimensions is if you think of it that way instead, in terms of light, right, you could actually start, yeah, this is a whole new way of thinking about it. Thank you for that, Dirk Myra. I appreciate that. That's very interesting. See what Buster has to say. Consciousness, a virtual physical quality, a virtual energy, and is the imaginary part of a complex electromagnetic field and thus virtual time space. Yeah, that's from the psychotronic universe. Yeah, that's good stuff. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. 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 Absolutely. Hmm. Oh, someone's commenting on what you were saying, Chick. One particle or a soul being split between infinite realities. So you're everywhere and you're nowhere at once. Very, very dualistic. Hmm.
Well, I think that maybe the difference between well, maybe this is really, I don't know, a stretch to say or not, but perhaps uh, people who are in different places than here, perhaps lighter density dimensions, not to say, you know, uh, whether or not that's preferable or not, but perhaps the difference between them and us is that, fundamentally, mechanically, their consciousness is the same, but they're able to not process the information all at once, but basically like take in the information all at once. As in, we are in several places at once, I think, considering the situation we're in, but we really only take in one viewpoint. I kind of think an easier way to think about it is cameras. Like we're one camera and we see the world and we can just take in the one vantage point.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas perhaps somebody that's a little further ahead than us or in a slightly different vibrational frequency than us, perhaps they are several cameras, but they're the one system and they can take it all in at once. And that's why they're like, it's strange to think that perhaps there's not that much difference there. It's just literally the amount of information that we're taking in right now because we're having a different experience of life, just taking in the one vantage point, whereas we're probably capable of doing a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Thank you for the super chat, Michelle's opinions. I really, it's a very wonderful gesture, and thank you very much. And I understand, everybody. Again, please go over to her page, and please help her out any way you can because her daughter, I was hit by a drunk driver when I was 17. Um, I survived, but it was a very difficult time in my life, and she just lost her daughter. She's 27. She was killed by a drunk driver. Um, and the problem and the difficulty is whenever you go between states, it gets very complicated. If you want to retrieve your loved one's body, and it becomes it's a mess. And I know California is difficult to deal with sometimes. I used to live in California. It can be with some of the bureaucratic stuff. Um, and I have a lot of family. My mom grew up in California. If you could go over to her page, I'm going to send the link over here. Her last video is it shows her daughter and the information. And instead of giving, if you wanted to give a super chat here, please redirect that over to Michelle's opinion. She's a great member of this community. She has she has helped out quite a bit in terms of just adding to the conversation with with the chat here, but also with the Mandela Effect community in general. So anyway, please do that. So yeah, we're finding out the strangeness, and it's all around us, and that's why I put in the title about the patterns and the God particle. And now, we're talking about the hidden portals from Earth's magnet. Now you got to wonder though, if you've got these hidden portals from the sun to the Earth, right? And let's say it's hitting Vermont. At a certain point, do these portals run into like the moon, because the moon is so close to the Earth now, right? I mean, I know that's kind of a linear way of thinking of things, but you know what I mean?
I suppose I like, as far as everything I've heard in that kind of direction about the moon, it seems to be mostly kind of people saying negative things. That the moon is either an interference or a recycling agent, or it's part of what's keeping people asleep. Like, I've not heard many positive things about it. I wonder what, and why. But there is definitely something going on with it, as we've seen the rotation pattern change, we've seen its orbit change, we've seen its location change. Obviously, we've seen the craters on it change. Like, everything about it has changed, including even the history and folklore about it. The rabbit and the rice cake. That's what the craters look like now. And now there's an ancient story about how it's not the man on the moon; it's a rabbit making a rice cake. Or in different parts of Asia, it's known as a rabbit making an elixir of eternal life. So,
Really?
yeah, that's the story about what the craters on the moon are. So it's not what we remember. Let's put it that way. And it could be something to do with control or recycling. I'm not sure, because it's a very mysterious thing, in that all the other planets and moons, as far as I know, they orbit in small circles as well as in large circles, as in they rotate while they're orbiting, and the moon doesn't. It's the only one that just statically sits there, and supposedly you never see the dark side of the moon. You only ever see the one face of it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that it's the way the actual moon looks versus what we see on Earth. It's like teeming with colors, and it's very, very different than what we think it is, and that it's actually a mirage over the moon to think it's gray. And I think it was Crow 777 that caught that, and he was tore off of YouTube. He's on Truth Frequency Radio now. I've never been able to talk to him, but he caught that, and it was a huge internet and international sensation. The moon, there was a ripple that went across the moon, and and he had a special gear. He had a special telescope, special camera. I mean, the whole rig he had was just an expensive, really. I'm assuming it is. I'm not really into telescopes and everything, but my understanding is it was basically a professional rig, and he took a picture. And you've got to see this from Crow 777 chick. You're just like, what? It's a ripple that goes across the moon, and it's as if, just like with a lot of the technology we're seeing, the UAP technology that's masking itself as a cloud. I'm at the point where I believe that UFOs are not only here, but they're masking themselves in. Yeah, Crow 777 is still on YouTube, correct. And I should have been more clear about that, Paulina. Thank you for correcting me. Let me get that out of the way. Crow 777 is still on YouTube. He had some kind of harassment when he first released the footage of this ripple that you watch. Look at the moon. He was looking for something else, and I'm not even sure if he was a truther or fringe guy or whatever. And this ripple went across it as if the moon was a hologram, and he calls it the holographic moon now. And the moon is something else. And I don't know if it's a hologram that's protecting us from the real truth of the moon, but what we see, more than one outlets have told me that the color of the moon is not what we think it is. The colors on the moon, what is going on with the moon, how the moon is what it actually is. Here we go. Yes, Crow 777 first hour on YouTube. Second, Crow 777 radio. Yes. And yeah, I think I'm actually before Crow 777 because all the Crow 777 people fill into the chat as my show's going off the lizard ritual. Anybody wants to tune in on Truth Frequency Radio. But I think I'm kind of like the opening act for him or whatever, or the hour before him. Let's say. I don't even want to. I mean, he's got a huge following, but he has all kinds of interesting information like that. And I've listened to his show quite a bit, and it's I don't think it's what we think it is, chick. I mean, not even close, not by a long shot.
I have a thought too about the cloaking. I think that it's not cloaked, and my reasons for saying this is I think it's some people can see things that other people usually don't. And in the paranormal, like we see that, we know that with several different phenomena. But with this, I've just listened to a lot of different people talking about their experiences and talking about what they can and can't see. And one thing that seems to be in common is when people have increased rates of DMT, they're able to see paranormal activity, they're able to see saucers, they're able to see things flying in and out of the sun. And this is different people that at different times have made different testimonials about this. And then when the rates go back to whatever their normal rate, like they're not taking anything, then they don't see him anymore. And I'm just like, I don't think that it's cloaked. I think that it's some people naturally create a lot of DMT in their mind and they can see these things, and then other people don't, for various different reasons. Some could say like the water or the things that people are eating, it affects how people's brains run, etc. But I think that maybe it's tied to why some people can see specters, some people can see like orbs, some people can see different things, and other people can't see it at all. And for people that are experiencing it, they're experiencing it just like they would anything that we experience. And we used to think that there was a divide between that. Like, oh, the computer sitting in front of me, everyone can interact with that. That's a definite thing. And now it's just like, no, several things exist within different bandwidths of reality, and it depends on what you're tuned into. And we think, oh, there's going to be an unveiling of saucers or whatever. What if it's the other way around? People are moving into the dimensional frequency where those things are. They're moving into their space, and that's why they're coming into this realization. And that's why governments were kind of warning, way back in the 80s, what if we all had to band together because there was saucers? Maybe their experts knew there was something going on, but people just could not see it. And when you can't see it, you're not worried about it. Like if you're not in the same dimensional bandwidth frequency, why would you worry about it? You're not in the same reality. You're kind of on the cusp of being in the same reality, but you're not. So therefore, you're not touching each other. You're not worried about it. But now it seems that may be changing.
That's a brilliant way to think about it. We're always thinking, yeah, we're kind of arrogant. Things are coming to us. You're right. What if we're altering our frequency? We're altering our waveform, and we're going to it or to them or whatever. No, you're absolutely right. I never thought of it that way. And that's why everything is seeming, it's so alien. It's all alien, and it's so bizarre. And that's why perhaps, quote unquote, whatever they are more comfortable. And we're the ones who have just arrived to the party, so to speak. So we're kind of wallflowers and we don't know what's going on. And we just got in and we don't know, who does what and where and how it works, and that's a great way of thinking about it. That's yeah, man, good stuff. This show, we're really tearing it up. Oh, and by the way, Lanessa, I want to give you my condolences if you just saw Hereditary. That's an absolutely terrifying movie. It took me about 2 weeks to recover from that. It just terrified me to no end. So I feel for you, and my heart goes out to you.
I've never seen the movie, but now I never will by the sounds of that.
It's about this family, and they're in it's an inner in like a the family is what is it when it's multiple generations, like an intergenerational curse within the family, and they're trying to yeah, it totally. You can show that it is effed up, big time, totally effed up. And what it is yeah, we'll depart from our G rating for just 1 second, just because it's that bad of a movie. And well, actually, it's a beautifully shot. It's a work of art, actually, but it's just the most terrifying expedition I've ever been a part of, and it's actually one of the most terrifying things. I almost think it's a ritual, the movie itself. Like it ritually takes you through different kinds of theta states and delta, theta, all the states from aggravation to sleep, and it does something to you. And I don't mean that in the like the other channels talk about it. I mean it in a way that is far bigger on the spiritual scale. But basically, it's about this family that is cursed, and you can look at it like the beauty is not until the end. You can look at it like it's intergenerational curse in terms of mental illness, or you can think about it in terms of demonic activity. And yeah, it's about Jeremy Crow. It's about Paimon, and it's about the Goetia and the Lesser Keys of Solomon, and they follow it. And they follow, and the rituals and everything about it is authentic, Jeremy. It is yeah, it's from at least, I mean, I've read I've only read the Goetia once, and the Lesser Kings of Solomon, which is a grimoire. And I've only read that once. I should read it again because I pick up things when I do them over and over and over and over again, and it's something new every single time. And I've talked about that before. I should actually see Hereditary again, because it wasn't until I saw Jacob's Ladder about 3 different times in 3 different time periods of my life that I understand what it was. Oh yeah, the Latin seance. Oh yeah. Oh God, it was so scary. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, too. I haven't seen it, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's this?
Oh my gosh, they do the seance, and it's so authentic. This bird, and then weeks later, after I saw Hereditary, and yeah, they talk about King Paimon, and then I started to hear, and I started reading the Goetia and the Lesser Kings of Solomon, reading about Paimon, and the way in which Paimon works and the way in which he reacts is exactly the way in which they approach Paimon in the movie. So, yeah, because Paimon, anyway, I don't want to give anything away, but Jacob's Ladder. It took me about 3 different times in 3 different parts of my life to understand what it was all about, and that's what makes it so powerful. And it reminds me a lot of Jacob's Ladder. I think it's a movie. If you see like Hereditary, if you see it when you're young, you'll pick up something from it. If you see it whenever you're an adult, you'll pick up something. I mean, young, like 20. Whenever you're an adult, like let's say you're 35, 38, you'll pick up something from it. And then let's say whenever you're as an older person and you're in your late 50s or early 60s, or maybe even 70 or whatever, you may pick up something different from it. So each time it's let's see, I did hear that the movie was intended to be an actual evocation of Paimon. Jeremy says, I wouldn't doubt it, Jeremy, that it was an evocation of Paimon, simply because when it was over with, I wasn't right. and a bird slammed into my window into my house. And my cats, we have this one big window that's on the side of the house, and it faces another house that's very close to our house. So there's just a concrete and then a little bit of shrubbery so we don't see over to the next house because it's very close. The houses are very close. And um, I don't know how this bird could have done it. It would have had to, the laws of physics would have had to been defied. But this bird, just like in the movie, slammed into the window of the house, on the side of the house, and the cats wigged, and this bird survived, thankfully, and flew away. But in the movie, she says it's OMG SMQ. Yeah, yeah, yep. Yeah, 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 exactly. Do the lesser banishing ritual. Yep. Yeah, actually, after you watch it in the room, you watched it. Okay, okay, Jeremy. Absolutely, man. Yeah, definitely. Maybe the bird clicked in. Buster says, that's Jeremy. You know what? I'm gonna do that, man. Yeah, because that's the only way to get this stuff off you. Because it's oh wow, it's hardcore. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just went on a movie tangent, chick. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just sitting back here thinking that, once upon a time, I suppose, because we didn't understand things that, were in a slightly different reality and non-corporeal, we thought that perhaps that they had an upper hand. But really, if we're talking about an existence where everything is light and we're different bandwidths of reality, then as people who have a solid status, quote unquote, we're just super concentrated points of energy and therefore
Mhm.
far more potent than anything that's just a wispy cloud that's outside of you. So if you don't
Mm.
feed it fear, what's it gonna do? It's a wispy cloud and you're a solid point of energy to the point where you could smash something. You could just pick it up and break it. And you
Right.
don't have to manifest energy to do that. You don't have to manifest electricity to do it. Like, you have a major advantage over all of these things.
Mm, mm, mm. So Lanessa was asking which ritual. It's called the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. Uh, um, some people say just you do it to get stuff off you and to get and to cleanse yourself and to just get it away from you. It's sort of like sage but more powerful. Um, but anyway. Oh, we're well over. Oh gosh, there goes the hour.
There's the
Gosh.
whole
Anyway,
hour gone.
we have 100. I know, right? All right, so we have 100 people watching, 97 people watching. You guys, before you leave, can we get 100 thumbs up? That would be really awesome. That way, we're probably not being suggested. So the only way is the thumbs up so we can work in the machine. And that way we can be suggested because, channels like this, I don't think are being suggested as often. So the thumbs up would help out quite a bit. And we, you know, we we hope you like us. We hope you like us. um, anyway, so that's it. Unless you got something else. And Michelle's opinions, please, please, please go over there. It's the last video. I pasted it here. Go over there and give what you can. If anything, a kind word. And what she did a nice show for it shows pictures of her daughter before she passed, and yeah. So a live drama. Jeremy Crow says a live drama was intended, and as a spiritual act in the beginning, and now we have Hollywood. Wow. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Jeremy. Wow, that's an interesting way to traverse time. Is that you had a dramatic spiritual act and the drama of the act, thousands of years ago, and it moved all the way through time into Hollywood. So, all right. Anyway, I'm getting off topic, and I want to stick to that hour. So, you guys, thank you very much for everyone being here. And again, jump over to Michelle's opinions and just if you can't give, then just say, hey, just let her know, so that's it, guys. We'll see you next week.
Sure.